Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners. And Latin America, also across the pond. And London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful March the 23rd, 2020. Ground of the Portes, Big C will be taking care of some business down south. Really looking forward to that coming off good, and we know that it will. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, Big C Sports, powered by Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic from 3,000 miles away, and he'll do his thing. And I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can also make sure that in today's climate that we still need levity. We still need to look out for our brethren and sisters. We're all good. It's all good in the neighborhood. I want to make sure we give out our Veterans Crisis Line. They are experienced helping families and veterans, especially when they need help. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. You can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can get some help. And I really do appreciate giving out that hotline, especially in today's climate. And everybody needs something to do, someone to call, somebody to lean on. We all need somebody to lean on, and that crisis line is there for you. I want to make sure that I'm very excited launching a real estate TV show in the spring of 2020. The goal is simply to recruit 100 real estate brokers to put their property listings on TV, just like McDonald's. They do it. Car dealerships do it. Sports events, sports companies do it, especially when we have the chance to play sports. You can watch TV and let real estate go to work for you on television, just like a lot of our top things that are top of the mind. And just having conversations today, I know the Fed has dropped the interest rate down to just like it's as low as it's ever been, really. Talking about around 1% or less. And I know for a lot of people, when you have uncertainty about will you have employment or not, maybe you're reticent to go out and get that loan. But I'm just going to say to all the people that are dealing with sports and your own families, today is a great time to refinance because you can lower the payment on your home. You can consolidate to pay off some debt. If you wanted to just take some money, instead of being equity rich and cash poor, take some of the money out of the property and do some proper safety net, holding on to it if you want to, or even investing. It may seem a little bit precarious nowadays, but there's always talk about the market. If there's a job loss, and there's a lot of thought that there's going to be a lot of job losses, even with this new coronavirus stimulus bill that they're still talking about today in Congress, if we have job loss, properties most likely will come down in value because a lot of people won't be able to hold on to their properties, and that can damage the market. We saw that happen about 12 years ago. We don't want to have another 2008 meltdown. But I'm just saying, take your head out of the sands. There'll be people that want to sell houses. There'll be people who want to buy houses. They're building as many houses in Northern California as anywhere in the country, and there's always opportunity. So we're going to be mentioning that as we launch the Big C real estate listing channel. It's already underway in some markets. Going to be really promoting that more as we get into the spring of 2020. So I really look forward to that. I want to make sure that as everybody looks for a way to figure out how to cope and how to deal with things in life. I hope that Big C Sports can be a part of that levity. But I want to also just say thoughts and prayers go out to the Kenny Rogers family. You got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to walk away and know when to run. I'm going to try to do a better job of that. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. And I remember listening to that song I didn't do it as well as the great Kenny Rogers did, but I'm telling you, when I think about some of the great entertainers over the years, the world lost a great one in Kenny Rogers, and I just wanted to to the Rogers family, just to let, as much as I can do, say thoughts and prayers are really with you. Everybody needs, something to think about, and sometimes songs and music makes us all come together. It doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter what your religion is, doesn't matter what that is. But there are musicians and entertainers that come along in our lifetimes, and they make things a lot better. Whether you're dealing with the Michael Jackson, the Jackson 5, whether you're dealing with Prince, you're dealing with Whitney Houston, the great Kenny Rogers, just so many great moments of listening to music, and I really just appreciate mentioning that, thoughts and prayers with the Kenny Rogers family. And I know everybody has their own way of celebrating life. And I know in the world of sports, people say, why is a sports show talking about the late Kenny Rogers? He was an American icon. And for anyone that follows sports, there's always a moment in time when you have music to hype you up, or sometimes music to relax. I remember the great Kenny Rogers did some performances. Some of the same great performances he had were on stage with Dolly Parton. Lionel Richie. There's more stars that honor the late Kenny Rogers. A lot of them sang the same songs, knew a lot of the same people. And it's always, Reba McEntire, Keith Urban, LeAnn Rimes. There's so many people who paid tribute to the late Kenny Rogers because his music it galvanized people, and we could all use more people being galvanized by music as opposed to a lot of the other things going on. So again, it's an honor to me to be able to sing that song. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the deal is done. So again, that's my tribute to the late Kenny Rogers. May he rest in peace, and may his family find hope. And just remembering how many great people have reached out and offered their thoughts and prayers. In the world of coronavirus and so many things happening, we need that pop of the bat again. We need that where's back to the wall, deep right field, home run. Okay, there's a guy by the name of the great Vin Scully, the LA Dodgers iconic broadcaster. And sometimes when you're sitting around the dinner table and you're wondering, when can we see sports again? I think about someone like the great Vin Scully that called so many games. I think about guys like Willie Mays, the Say Hey Kid, when he was doing his thing. Juan Marichal, these guys that were just great baseball players. Of course, the great Hank Aaron. And then I still want to see Pete Rose get into the Hall of Fame. Everybody has their own opinion. I want to see Barry Bonds get into the Hall of Fame too. Everybody knows there's no way to actually think about how good baseball is. We have the cheating scandal that happened down in Texas with the Houston Astros, but everybody has their own thoughts about who did what, and I still miss the game. Coronavirus is having a big impact on a lot of things. But I want to just talk about an article that a good friend of mine sent me about Vin Scully and how we can deal with COVID-19. And when you think about Vin Scully, 67 years, that's a long time. Vin Scully did it in the broadcast booth. He focused on the good and the bad during, his time as a broadcaster. Broadcasting in LA, been through the earthquakes down in Los Angeles, been through the floods that hit Los Angeles, been through some of our greatest entertainers, passing away down in Los Angeles, been through some of the championships and the good and bad times of football and in basketball and baseball. Been through the times of the Rams leaving Los Angeles, going back to St. Louis. Of course, way back in the day when the Chargers left LA, went to San Diego, now they came back. Been through the times where the Oakland Raiders went from Oakland down to Los Angeles and then left Los Angeles and came back up north. Now they're in Las Vegas. But one thing that's been true, tried and true, I think you can say, is very fair to say that the Los Angeles Dodgers, not only have they been, I would say, the second team in LA behind the LA Lakers, they've been so solid as a place of entertainment. And just had the chance to read an article about the great Vin Scully and what he thought about what's going on now. Major League Baseball, like many sports in different teams around the world, has been shut down indefinitely because of the growing threat that is the novel coronavirus, COVID-19. Spring training has been suspended. Say it ain't so. We need to say, hey, kid, to make an announcement that coronavirus hopefully will be over soon. Spring training has been suspended, and opening day has been pushed back. It hasn't been canceled. Pushed back to mid-May. There's some hopeful news coming out of New York about a new, I guess it's not a new virus, vaccine for the virus, but we just hope that we can deal with that with the White House and the scientists behind that. But I still want to just say to the people that love baseball, and I think about Vin Scully doing this thing for 67 years for Dodger Blue, and just think about what he's seen. I mean, he's seen from children to grandchildren. He's seen people that came to Dodger Stadium and watched great baseball. The Dodgers have been tearing it up on the West Coast as of late in the National League West. But we don't have the baseball right now to cheer and to get our minds off of things that are going on in life. But this is something I want to share that the great Vin Scully mentioned, because a lot of people are missing baseball right now, and I'm one of those people missing it too. But I know, it's going to come around again. It's just been postponed. It hasn't been canceled. But the great Scully said that he thinks people are especially jumping at the opportunity to help each other. And he believes that that's kind and heartwarming, that we can all do that. And that can be hard to see when people are hoarding and fighting over toilet paper. Believe that, toilet paper, people fighting for toilet paper and different things. But that's kind of a scarce mentality. We're going to get through this. There's always going to be a few bad apples. Most folks are doing what they can to help. Just staying home is a way of helping others. That comes from the great Vin Scully. And this is what he also stated, and this may help somebody too. For his money, there's no better way to unwind after a long day than listening to baseball games. The great Vin Scully, he called a lot of late-night West Coast games for the LA Dodgers. His broadcasts were always calm, and they were comforting, except for the opposing teams. The San Francisco Giants don't want to hear that at all. But they still provided that comfort. We all want to have that comfort when we go home. And I know it's been a little bit difficult lately, but we all got to reach out to something. So there are times when you reach out to other people and you just realize that they also have been through a lot. And like Vin Scully talked about, there's times when you go through moments in life where you don't really know what to do. But if you just think about what sports has done to bring people together, and the great Vin Scully broadcasting for the Dodgers has been one of the most reassuring voices you can hear in sports. Always there, always just giving you his thoughts on the LA Dodgers and how time will get better. It just will. We all know that it will. We miss the days of baseball and the spring training. And so I just wanted to thank my friend for sending me that article on the great Vin Scully and his thoughts on how people can get through things. Just realize we've been through a lot in this country. We've been through wars, we've been through pandemics, and we will get through it. We've been through a lot of isms in this country that make people think, are things ever going to get better? And I know they will. So I just wanted to give my part on the great Vin Scully. Again, also talking about the late Kenny Rogers. You got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to walk away and know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting when the deal is done. And I think Major League Baseball is doing the same thing. You just got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. So they're holding them right now. They're not folding the season. They are holding it. Like the late Kenny Rogers said, baseball's doing that. There'll still be time to count the bases when this virus is done. so even the universe can tie things together as well as I can. I want to also, as we go past the great Vin Scully and his thoughts about just relax, it's going to be okay. You know, this too shall pass. Listen to the medical doctors. Listen to science. Talk to your own doctor. Make sure your family's being healthy. Get out and exercise. If you got to watch some older games, that's fine too. I just want to do my part in making sure that I carry on some stories from people who've been out there a lot longer than I have. You know, I mentioned on Friday, Big C, I was saying on Friday how the Olympics, that torch had finally gotten from Greece to Japan. I don't know any conscientious person, unless you're just antithetical to science, and some people are. Some people still think the earth is flat. That's okay. Just a matter of the educational system. But there are countries are starting to pull out of the 2020 Olympics. Oh, Canada, our home and native land. All the way down to the Australia, Big C. They were just dealing with the fires not long ago. But they say they won't send their athletes to Tokyo if the games are held in July. Remember what Kenny Rogers told us? You gotta know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. Think about what Kenny Rogers said. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. What did Kenny Rogers know about that? The TV rights for the Olympics is $1 billion alone. You know, $1 billion with a B. That's how important it is when people want to count their money. But the late Kenny Rogers told us, you never count your money when you're sitting at the table. You don't put money over health. There are some players and athletes all over the world that train really hard, but they got to put their own health in front of the money or in front of the notoriety. Now, it took two countries threatening to boycott the 2020 Tokyo Olympics for Japan to finally, Big C, they finally admitted that the games could be postponed. What did Kenny Rogers tell them? You got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. So they finally acknowledged that, even though it's taken about a month since Corona's been all over the news. So today, after spending weeks insisting that the Olympics, which are due to begin July the 24th, that it would go ahead in some form. Japan finally admitted that postponing them was now a possibility. But I asked any athlete, like the late Kenny Rogers told us, you got to know when to fold them. You got to know it. You got to fold up the tents right now and put health first. It has to be considered first. I don't know any athlete that's going to go ahead and play in the Olympics without thinking about all the consequences that are going on in this country. Especially, how insensitive would it be knowing what's happened with Italy with the coronavirus, really just doing a lot of damage, and I hope and pray that medical science will get on top of that. But it's difficult to hold in a complete way a decision of postponement. It's going to be unavoidable. They got to do what Kenny Rogers say and just, fold them right now. Just let people know you don't have to keep training for it. The Olympics Games would be the highest profile and largest sporting event to be postponed by the global pandemic that has already wiped out months of the global sporting calendar. We talked about postponements of games. We talked about baseball being postponed. NBA basketball postponed. Hockey is postponed. There's a league in Canada also, like for minor league, and they've just announced that they're postponing, actually canceling that too. Or postponement, there's two different words that juxtapose each other. I think they're one and the same. But right now we're talking about postponement, not canceling. Kenny Rogers told us, you got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. Now, think about this. Everybody knows that their athletes put their heart, mind, body, and soul into competing, but they got to be healthy. Several Canadian athletes, they welcome the news that there's a six-time Canadian Olympian and a member of the International Olympic Committee's Athletes Commission who had previously slammed the IOC's lack of decisive action, said that she was very proud of Canada's decision. Her name is Haley Wickenheiser. So I really appreciate the fact that there's a lot of athletes. They're not just sitting around waiting for an Olympic committee to tell them if they're going to play a game or not. It's just a game. It's just a game. They can always do practice. The great Allen Iverson told us, practice? You're talking about practice? A lot of athletes have been practicing all over the world just to play the game. And whether they can play the game or not, their health has to come first. At least trust science. The world is not flat. It's round. We gotta trust science. We gotta think about what Vin Scully said in an article that he was in the LA Times today, and that things will get better. You know, you think about how long 67 years is as a broadcaster, and how, as a broadcaster, he's been able to see a lot of things. Imagine broadcasting games through the civil rights movement. There was a lot of moments in time where a lot of people could have just walked away and said, I don't want to do anything else relating to sports, because it's part of what people, they use sports sometimes to get away from misery, and we all need to find a way to have some levity. I want to make sure that I do my part in as much as I can. I also want to mention in the world of, I want to go back to Vin Scully real quick, because with baseball, and hearing Vin Scully talk about baseball, it's always important that we all hear that ringing of the bat. You know, that the ringing of the bat and the crack of the bat, whatever it is. Back to the wall, right field, home run, however they want to call it. Everybody says, I mean, that to me reminds me when I was a little boy and I actually had the chance to play Little League Baseball. And I still think about that. When I was 11 years old, I struck out 11 batters actually in one game. And I was very proud about that. Made the All-Stars. I mean, it was played football, basketball, baseball, track and field, did martial arts. I remember the punt, pass, and kick. I was a part of that when I was a young boy. But it was a man like the great Vin Scully that would call games for guys that played Little League. They went on to high school. Many went to college. Others got the chance to play in minor leagues or play in the major leagues. And I think about how many players look up to the major league players now. Talked about earlier the great Willie Mays, the great Hank Aaron. I think about guys like Willie Stargell. You know, you think about guys like a Barry Bonds or Dave Stewart or a Catfish Hunter or Reggie Jackson. Just so many, you know, Rod Carew. Just so many great athletes that I've seen over the years. And I really appreciate the fact that baseball has meant something in my life. So yeah, I don't want to see it canceled. I want to see it postponed. Like Kenny Rogers told us, you got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to walk away, and you got to know when to run. So I appreciate that too. And I know that a lot of people just relax, hold on. I'm hoping our pastime will spring back into action. No pun intended. I hope it does. Speaking of baseball, Aaron Judge reveals that he had a collapsed lung and says his ribs are improving. The New York Yankees slugger, Aaron Judge, he revealed that he had a collapsed lung and that is healed. And he said that the broken rib is also improving. He had a CT scan on Friday. The Yankees announced 2 weeks ago that Judge had a stress fracture in his first right rib. The bone is still about the same, he says. It's a slight improvement, but he's going to play, and he wants. You think when we talked about the Big C pause that we always do, we'll come up on that shortly. Think about all the great broadcasters. Vin Scully, probably the best in the business, and they want to see the game. Even though he retired, he still evolved around the game. They want to see the game, and you have guys like Aaron Judge that was playing, even though he had maybe a cracked bone at the time. It's not newly cracked. It's healing, and he had an issue with his lung, but the man loved the game so much, a lot like Reggie Jackson. I mean, guys they love performing, and this game brings a lot of people together. I know a lot of us are missing it, but it will be back. It just will, and I'm hopeful that this news out of New York City with Andrew Cuomo announcing there's a drug. The White House has been talking about it, how it's been around about 50 years, and I'll let the medical science get into that because I don't want to give false hope either. I still listen to Dr. Fauci when he says he doesn't want to give out false hope, and I believe him. We don't want to give out false hope. Everybody wants to have the hope. Just like Christmas, we all hope for things. I want to hope that baseball is back soon. And I know that we'll be back in the swing of things. That's just important. I want to also jump across to the NFL. And, Tom Brady decided to take his talents down to Florida where there's no state income taxes. So pretty savvy move on Tom Brady. The backup, his ex-backup, Brian Hoyer, he's returned to the Patriots for a third time. The veteran quarterback, he's agreed to a 1-year, $1 million deal, just over $1 million. Hoyer was released by Indianapolis on Saturday, and Hoyer, the Patriots, added a veteran quarterback who is familiar with their system, and the first move to add some depth at the quarterback position since Tom Brady left, and then signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's 34 years old, began his career as Brady's backup in New England in 2009, and spent his time with 7 NFL teams during his 11-year career. He has played in 69 games, has 38 starts. 38 is not a lot of starts. We consider Brady's had about 1 million starts, but 38 starts, completed 873 of 1,477 passes for 10,274 yards and 52 touchdowns. He has 34 interceptions. Why not bring in Jameis Winston? Jameis Winston can throw interceptions too, but Jameis Winston, he was throwing his interceptions before he had the LASIK surgery. So I think it would be, everybody has their own thoughts. He should. I would love to see Jameis Winston go up to New England. He threw for over 5,000 yards. Brady didn't throw for 5,000 yards. People can talk all they want about a guy who can't see. He didn't have his right glasses, Big C. When you have LASIK surgery, you might be able to come on and play better. But anyway, everybody is it's gonna all work out in New England. They'll have still a good defense, and I know that they'll always get back on their feet. Hoyer, he served as Brady's backup in 2018 before being beaten out in that role by Jarrett Stidham during the 2019 preseason. So we'll see what happens. New England tends to always land on their feet. For people who are wondering, what's Bill Belichick going to do? Did he really chase Tom Brady out of town? No. Money chased Tom Brady out of town. He could have stayed in New England. They made him an offer, but he said no. He wanted to go and take more money going. And he got more money twice because there's no state income tax in the state of Florida. Quarterback Kyle Allen goes from the Carolina Panthers to the Washington Redskins, following his former coach Ron Rivera. They get Allen from the Panthers, trade Dunbar to the Seahawks. You think about what's going on in the world of football right now. There's a lot of guys that are moving across the country or just trading from team to team to pursue their pursuit of happiness. And he'll probably get it too. The Redskins traded a quarterback Ron Rivera is plenty familiar with. Not that one, but Washington on Monday, they acquired Kyle Allen from the Carolina Panthers. Remember the guy that took over for Cam Newton? Remember that? People were saying how much better he was leading the team than Cam Newton. Now, they get a 5th-round pick, traded cornerback Quentin Dunbar to the Seattle Seahawks. So Pete Carroll will add a little bit better defensive stop in their secondary. Now, according to a person with knowledge on the moves, he spoke to the Associated Press under condition of anonymity. So we'll see what happens with that trade between Washington and Seattle. Now, getting Allen is not a big a splash as getting Cam Newton. The 24-year-old becomes some semblance of completion for 2019. It's just a matter of how do you work him in with Dwayne Haskins, who came out of Ohio State throwing 50 touchdowns. You got to decide on who you're going to stick with. And I know that Rivera will probably go with the guy that he's more familiar with. If not, he'll give the ball to the man that can just win if we have football. God, I don't even want to say that. Maybe they're going to do the Big C pause or the Kenny Rogers pause for football too. I hope not. But Allen's thrown for 3,588 yards and 19 touchdowns. He has 17 interceptions in 15 NFL games in 2018 and 2019, all with the Panthers. He became their starter last season when the great Cam Newton, former NFL MVP, got hurt. He finished with 23 turnovers and was benched for rookie Will Grier the final 2 weeks after Carolina fell out of the playoff hunt. So a lot of things are still happening in baseball, and there's a lot happening in football. Nothing's happening right now in basketball, but we all hope that sports will come back soon because we all need it. We're going to take what's called the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about some sports and what's going on with this $2.5 trillion stimulus bill. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we're back from the Big C Timeout, also known as the Big C Pause. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on an app that I love called Google, or Alexa, just say Google, or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports Podcast. Also, really looking forward to launching a real estate TV listing channel already underway in some markets in the United States of America, and that's coming in the spring of 2020. And again, McDonald's does it, and TVs, they broadcast sports all the time on TV, when we have games, that is. Car dealerships do it, everybody does it. So the goal is, I know people are looking for work, and we're also able to help you expand. If you're focused on real estate and sales or lending, looking for 100 real estate brokers to list their properties on TV. And when you think about that, a lot of people now, they really don't want to do open houses. Just talking to the TV side of what we're doing today, a lot of people don't want to do open houses. They may want to, how are they going to find out what the house looks like? They're going to go online. They can go online also and take a look at that property that's online. But the thing about television, you know, car dealerships, you can go online and look at a car too. But there's nothing quite like the test drive of that 500 horsepower, whatever you're driving. You can go online and you can look at how to buy a home. But there's nothing like when you walk through and you imagine what it looks like with your family in that house. Is that backyard big enough? Is it in the school district that you want to live in? How close is it to your commute from home to work? A lot of people work from home nowadays. Nothing wrong with that. But the great thing about television, just like the TV you have now when you go home, you can look at it in your own home. There's things on TV that you can watch online, but it's not really the same. If that were the case, everyone would throw away their TV sets and only watch things on computer. And that's fine too. A lot of people stream. But I'm saying streaming has not made people throw away the television sets. There's still a reason to put things on TV. Really looking forward to doing that with the listing channel with the Big C team. Also, again, the goal to get 100 insurance, not insurance necessarily, but we can do insurance people too, because every house has to have insurance. Maybe that's something we'll add to the package, because there's a lot of properties you can't buy a home unless you have insurance. So maybe just like Kenny Rogers said, you got to know when to add them. You got to know when to hold them, when to fold them. You got to know when to add things too. But the real estate really important. Looking forward to that, and that's going to be coming up very, very soon. I want to step back into the world of NFL. Before I get into some things that I think are important, I still want to mention some things about coronavirus and also some of the great baseball stadiums in the country. Associated Press, a quarterback moves at the XFL's Walker. His name is P.J. Walker of the Houston Roughnecks. The former Raider linebacker Tahir Whitehead have also made some news. So the Panthers are making more changes at quarterback, and they've agreed to terms and contracts with former XFL quarterback P.J. Walker. He was off the hook down in Houston for the Roughnecks, and I'm really looking forward to him making a splash. It's a shame the league didn't make it. I don't know if that's on the pause or if they did what Kenny Rogers said, if they decided to fold it. It may come back, it may not, we don't know, but we know the NFL will be back. But I really appreciate the fact that the decision to add Walker, it prompted the Panthers to trade Kyle Allen to the Washington Redskins that we talked about earlier. According to a person with knowledge on the move, and I'm thinking about Allen. Think about this. Allen started 12 games last season for the Panthers. He went 5-7 as a starter. He had 23 turnovers. Actually, 23 turnovers. That's a lot. In 17 touchdown passes. 23 turnovers, 17 touchdown passes, and he still has a job. At least Jameis Winston had 30 touchdowns, and he had 30 turnovers, but he was 50-50. So think about it. Allen was worse in the interception and turnover department than he was in the touchdowns. But it's all fair in love and war. Teddy Bridgewater agreed to a 3-year, $63 million contract last week to replace the great Cam Newton, who was given permission by the team to seek a trade. If Newton's not traded, then the team is expected to release him and free up $19 million under the salary cap. That's amazing. A lot of money out there in the world of the NFL. So people will land on their feet. A little bit more about Walker. 25-year-old Walker is one of the stars of the XFL and a leading MVP candidate. He threw for 1,338 yards, 15 touchdown passes, and 4 interceptions. Just 4 interceptions. Just 4. That's not bad, considering Winston threw 30 and Allen threw 23. So he should be a star when they look at Walker. They just give him that chance and let the Roughnecks to a 5-0 start before the league canceled or did what the pause on the season. They got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. It's all fair in love and war. Everybody has a chance to decide who's going to make their team better. And I just look forward to a lot of these young players out of the XFL. There'll be a lot more that have the chance to come on and hopefully making an NFL roster is really a child's dream that people want to be a professional athlete. Hopefully they'll get the chance to do that. So I look forward to that. NHL, Nashville. Think about it. The Nashville Predators, they signed Connor Ingram to a 3-year deal. Even though we're not skating on the ice right now, they did sign him to a 3-year deal, and I'm sure he's going to appreciate the money. He's 22 years old. He posted a 21-5-5 record for the AHL's Milwaukee Admirals of the 2019-2020 season. He ranked third among AHL goaltenders in save percentage and goals against average. He tied for third in wins. The contract is worth $700. I almost feel embarrassed to read this because he's going to get a lot more money. We were just talking about Aaron Judge earlier, but he's going to get a contract worth about $700,000 at the NHL level of the 2020-2021 season and $750,000 each of the following 2 seasons. That's not a lot of money compared to what Major League Baseball players and NFL football players and NBA basketball players are making. But that's a lot of money anyway, and I'm sure he'll take it to the bank because nobody's going to turn down $700,000, especially in today's climate. And I'll talk about the stimulus package coming up in a little bit. Nashville Predators also signed Patrick Harper. There's a lot of things going on down south, Big C. A lot of you good boys, you may not have ice to roll around and skate around on, but I'm sure you're celebrating some libations. The Predators signed a gentleman by the name of Patrick Harper, a 2-year entry-level deal, and they've signed it forward to a 2-year entry-level deal, as I mentioned. The general manager, David Poley, announced the deal on Friday. Harper, just 21 years old. He finished his senior season at Boston University, matching a career high with 37 points, a career best 14 goals, a 5'7", 150-pound forward, finished 15th in the NCAA among all skaters, averaging 1.16 points a game, and was second on his team in points to David Ferentz, also a Predators prospect. So a lot of things going on in the world of NHL. I know them good old boys, they really want to skate around on ice, but right now they got to do what Kenny Rogers said. You got to know when to hold them, you got to know when to fold them. Know when to walk away and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the deal is done. I'm not as great in the oratory as the great late Kenny Rogers, but I do love that song. And we were just talking earlier about the Olympics postponing or canceling. Right now, they're talking about postponing in Japan because they don't want to get some players. They don't want to put them more at risk. What's more important, your health or your money? Well, former Olympic swimmer Cameron Van Der Burg has coronavirus. Now, a lot of people have gotten it. They've gotten better after the self-quarantine. And, I'm hoping that these new drugs that have been talked about in New York City are going to have some really good effects. I know everybody has to have hope. I don't want to give out false hope, but I'll let the doctors and the scientists decide what happens there. But think about this for anyone dealing with, if you think you have some symptoms or not. Former Olympic swimming champion Cameron Van Der Burg said that he has contracted the coronavirus and added that his voice to concerned athletes, remember we talked about canceling or postponing the Olympics, the well-being of the Tokyo Games. You think it wants to go ahead as scheduled? Yes, $1 billion TV rights. But they should postpone it for right now. Van Der Burg retired from the competitive swimming in 2018, posted a series of messages on social media on Sunday, describing how he had been ill with the virus for 2 weeks. Although the most severe symptoms, think about this, as people are afraid, they're afraid of everything. I'm not making light of anything, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. A lot of the people are getting better, okay? This is what he said, because everybody's afraid of everything now, it seems. Although the most severe symptoms and extreme fever have eased, that he's still struggling with serious fatigue and a residual cough that he can't shake, and wrote that on his official Twitter account, any physical activity like walking leaves him exhausted for hours, but wrote that athletes are exposing themselves to unnecessary risk by continuing to train in preparation for the Olympics. That if you have any common sense, don't get on an airplane and go over there unless you value some money and notoriety more than your health. They can postpone it. They can still play the Olympics. It doesn't mean they're going to cancel it forever. They can push it back a year. That's what common sense people have said. So those athletes that do not contract the virus, they're going to try to rush back into training, most likely enhancing or extending the damage recovery time. And this is his own thoughts. He ended the thread with COVID-19 is no joke. There are now signs that the Olympics, which are due to start July 24th, we just talked about that they will be postponed. I mentioned that last week. They should have postponed it. Who are they waiting on? I mean, who really is waiting on some oligarchy to tell you that you should go over and perhaps put your health at risk when we're just waiting on some type of cure or treatment? There's no cure for high blood pressure, but they can treat it. That's important. And I believe and I'm hopeful that the new announcements coming out of science and in the medical industry will come true. I'm just hoping and praying that happens. So whether you want to believe it or not, even athletes, they gotten that virus. They've been, have to do their self-isolation. We're telling, or the governors are telling everybody to do that. I think also in England, in London, they just shut down the city of London. They told Californians to quarantine over the weekend. Mayor Gavin Newsom, I believe. Cuomo in New York City said the same thing. But I just want to finish this thought. The 31-year-old Vandenberg won gold at the 2012 London Olympics and silver at the 2016 Rio de Janeiro Olympics. Remember how there was so much talk about the Rio de Janeiro Olympics and how some people were concerned about some things that go on outside of the Olympic complex? Well, we got through that, didn't we? So, in the 100-meter backstroke, actually breaststroke, he also won 6 world championship golds, both long and short course. He holds a short course world record in the 50-meter and 100-meter breaststroke. And here's an athlete that got better. So they're just adding, do what you can to pay attention because it's important. It's important that we all focus on what we can do in our own families, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a father or a mother or a parent. If you're a child, you got to put your health first and the health of people that love you first. I want to take the time to just mention this because I think it's important. Everybody has the ability to complain or to not complain. It doesn't matter. We all have an opinion. The coronavirus stimulus bill proposed $2.5 trillion with a T. They're seeking a yes vote to help Americans. I know a lot of people want to know who won the game, but even more lately, a lot of conscientious people, and my heart is happy to see that even some of the dumb radio stations that about a year ago said, we don't talk politics, we only want to know who won a game. A lot of those guys they capitulated. Maybe they read a book, or their program directors have read a book. And I'm saying Big C didn't have to capitulate because we've been doing this the same about 5 years now. They're actually taking some time to realize that a lot of people maybe just don't read, or they just don't have access to whatever. But they're taking some time to talk about coronavirus, to talk about how we can all stay better, so we can stay safer. Surgeon General Jerome Adams said go to coronavirus.gov, and everybody has their own opinion, and you can read up on what you can do to keep your family safe. You can also talk to your medical doctor, but they're probably busy compared to going online and dealing with that. So the coronavirus stimulus bill, the House Democrats unveiled today, Monday, would cost an estimated $2 trillion. $2.5 trillion is $2.5 trillion. nearly 40% more than the $1.8 trillion bill being considered in the Senate. The House bill removes restrictions on, think about this, I know sports fans go to games too, for people that still don't like politics added to their sports. Well, sometimes people like coffee plain, sometimes they want cream and sugar. The House bill removes restrictions on paid sick and family leave that were in an earlier coronavirus package signed into law. It expands unemployment insurance and includes strict conditions for corporations receiving federal bailouts. They just got a tax cut from POTUS. Now they're getting part of the bailout. What Mitch McConnell didn't tell a lot of people is they had a lot of stuff put in their first bill that Democrats turned down to help a lot of corporations that have already received the tax cut. This money needs to help the average Joe, the mother, the father that's trying to raise a family, not some corporation or a guy that owns several hotels and trying to get a tax break. You got to help the people first, the people trying to put food on the table. You got to help them and their families. That's more important. So the bill removes the restrictions on paid sick and family leave that were in an earlier coronavirus package signed into law and expands unemployment insurance and includes strict conditions for corporations receiving federal bailouts. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democrat of California, said the House may take up the Senate version if a bipartisan agreement is reached, but threatened to call back the lower chamber for a vote in the event of a deadlock. I hope that people will do what's right. I hope they were not just focused on who won a game. Don't be like some of the knucklehead sports broadcasters from the last year where they kept their head in the sand. They didn't even want to know that we had anything in this life to do with other than sports. I want to make sure that we can be the vanguards of what we do. Give it some equal time. We can talk about sports, and I've done that, but I want to make sure that the universe can judge Big C Sports by did we do the right thing in the trying times. Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer, Democrat, New York, said today, Monday, that negotiations with the Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin were making steady progress, but that he was hoping for a deal by day's end. That's $2.5 trillion. It has to go into the hands of families. Republicans blasted Democrats for holding up the bill, arguing that the demands include provisions tied to climate change. So I guess climate's not important, right, to some people, and other issues that should not be a part of the current debate. Everybody has their own opinion. They still talk about the stock markets fell on Monday, putting pressure on both sides to reach a deal. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, I don't know why he's in that position, doesn't make any sense, has sought to use the market tensions as leverage in the political battle, as opposed to putting money into moms and dads all over this country so they can put food on the table. There's been a lot of people that have lost jobs, that have lost work, and we still have people saying that they care more about the money in the stock market than they do food in your kid's belly. Think about that the next time you want to plot somebody. I'm just saying, Google it. Everybody has their own opinion. $2.5 trillion package would increase annual government spending, including Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid by more than 50%, and would triple the annual deficit. As we always talk about, what's more important, your money or your health? Well, everybody has to answer that question. I always thought it would be your health is more important than your money. Even the great Warren Buffett, I think he's 89 years old. He doesn't know what's going to happen in this climate. And he has a company in Berkshire Hathaway, one of the companies that I know a lot of people considering doing some business with them also in the real estate industry, because there's a lot of people that are buying and selling houses. And there's just companies that are out there, but even Warren Buffett doesn't really know what's going on. But the $2.5 trillion coronavirus stimulus package, it helps families. It helps people that want to go to a sporting event and see who won the game. It's all fair in love and war. I just hope that we can all do our part and make sure that we keep everybody healthy. And one more thing I want to touch on before I touch on a few baseball stadiums to close out, because oftentimes you don't hear much about what's going on with the HBCUs and how they are avoiding, trying to avoid coming in contact with the coronavirus outbreak that's been happening. Black colleges prepare for uncertainty as the coronavirus outbreaks affects a lot of communities. They were talking about a university down in Atlanta, Georgia, the Atlanta University Center. And think about this. The faculty at Clark Atlanta University, one of the historically black colleges that make up the Atlanta University Center. They converged recently on campus for an in-depth meeting and training on how to cope with the coronavirus and keeping their faculty and also their students safe. They're doing everything they can all over this country. Colleges can lead the way. They have a lot of online classes now as they're telling people to stay away. And I know teachers have to get paid. That's why we need that $2.5 trillion stimulus package to be signed. But it has to put money into the bellies of children, and before we worry about the stock market of some major corporations. They've already gotten the top 1%. They've already gotten the corporate bailouts. POTUS, he gave them all tax cuts. Now now McConnell wants to give them most of the money out of the stimulus bill. I know a lot of people don't read, so they don't know that. But they're still trying to take care of their cronies first before they put food in your kid's belly. That's why you gotta read up on that stuff and make sure. It illustrates how the nation's 101 historically black colleges and universities are coping with the pandemic that has crippled Italy. My heart bleeds for the people in Italy. We need that medication. We need that, hopefully, that positive, good test of a positive test for they don't call it a cure, but it's a way that you can treat coronavirus. I know they're talking about starting the trials in New York City on Tuesday. So just keep in mind, there are a lot of countries struggling. I still want to say I would love to ask pastors and bishops all over the universe to pray. If you believe in God, we can watch garbage TV and garbage, music stations giving us all kind of garbage to listen to. There's a lot of times when we can maybe pray and ask God for help. I'm hoping that helps too. Everybody has their own opinion, but I'm not someone who's afraid to talk about invoking God's help. I think it's in Isaiah 54:17, no weapon formed against you will prosper. A lot of pastors know what I mean. Let's all do that prayer. We all celebrate Happy New Year with fireworks and all over the world. Fireworks, Happy New Year! We're celebrating fireworks and everybody's having a good time. Maybe all the pastors can celebrate and ask God's favor in solving this problem with coronavirus. I just think it's worth a try. We tried it for the Million Man March, and it brought a lot of people together. I wanted to close out today talking about the Major League Baseball parks, as everybody has their opinion on who has the best. And I love baseball. I think it's a great pastime for a lot of people. I want to start just mentioning several of the stadiums. Many of them I've been to. Many of them, maybe you've been to them also. The Old Batco Coliseum, Oakland, California, opened in 1966. The capacity is 35,067. And it's a shame. It was once a nice stadium before Al Davis brought in that monstrosity called Mount Davis. And now the Raiders are left. You could have seen the East Bay Hills from home field, right behind the home plate, but you can't see that anymore. Mount Davis is there, and the team that constructed it went to Las Vegas. 29 on the list, Tropicana Field in Tampa, Florida, opened in 1990, capacity 31,042. Now, to me, it deserves to be. You're in the Sunshine State. Take the dome off of that stadium. Do a rebuild. Do whatever you can. But I know everybody has their own opinion. Some people don't like the ring. Number 28 coming in, the Rogers Center in beautiful Toronto, Canada. Opened in 1989. And it holds 49,282. And remember, it used to be called Sky Dome back in the day. It can actually open and close the dome. Maybe Tampa can get that kind of retrofit for their stadium down in Florida. So everybody has an opinion about who has the best stadiums, and that's on the list so far. Number 27, Globe Life Park, Arlington, Texas. Opened 1994, 48,114. Now think about it. It's low on the list now, but check back when the postponed season opens up in 2020 this year, when the Rangers open up a brand new ballpark, and it surely will rank higher than 27th. Number 26, the Marlins Park in Miami, capacity 36,412. It's a beautiful stadium, but why do they have a dome on it in Miami? Just like in Tampa. You go to Florida because it's the Sunshine State. Take the dome off of that stadium. It's too beautiful to hide everything. Number 25 on the list, Guaranteed Rate Field, Chicago, opened in 1991, capacity 40,615, and that's home of the Chicago White Sox. Number 24 on the list, Chase Field in beautiful Arizona, opened 1998, capacity 48,633, and it's similar look to Miller Park. Chase Field has a retractable ceiling also. Maybe them good up boys in Florida can do the same thing to their stadium. Miller Park And Milwaukee, Wisconsin, capacity 41,900. It opened in 2001. They also have a dome, but sometimes it gets about 10 degrees up in Milwaukee, so it's okay to have a dome on that stadium. A lot of people love that park. One of my favorite parks, it also has a dome because it rains a lot. In Seattle, Washington, T-Mobile Park in Seattle, opened in 1999, 47,476. And one of the biggest ballparks in baseball is T-Mobile Field. Number 21, Busch Stadium in St. Louis, Missouri, opened in 2006. Capacity 43,975, and it's the gateway to the arch. It's a beautiful backdrop in that beautiful city of St. Louis. Also, the bugs are really big in the springtime, so just for a lot of guys that like to play with bugs. Great America Ballpark in Cincinnati, Ohio, opened in 2003. Capacity 42,319, right there on the water. That's also a beautiful place to watch a ball game, and I know a lot of people back in Ohio love going there. Number 19, Citi Field, New York, opened in 2009. Capacity 41,922, and of course, it's a beautiful ballpark, but it's not Yankee Stadium, but we'll take it. Number 18, Progressive Field in Cleveland, Ohio, opened up 1994. Capacity 42,847, home of the 2019 All-Star Game. Can you say World Series champions? Washington Nationals Park in Washington, D.C., opened 2008. Capacity 41,418. And you know, agree or not, it's a beautiful ballpark in the nation's capital. Number 16, Comerica Park in Detroit, 2000 was the year that opened. Capacity 41,681. And downtown Detroit has really done a good job of building up their major league stadiums for basketball, football, and baseball. 15 on the list, Minute Maid Park in Houston, Texas, opened in 2000. Capacity 42,060. Love it or hate it. They also have a dome on that. I know the heat and humidity gets really hot down in Texas. Number 14, Citizens Bank Park, Philadelphia, opened 2004. Capacity 43,651. And they call it the city of brotherly love. Well, we'll see. That's the same city that boos Santa Claus. Number 13, Angel Stadium, beautiful Anaheim, California, right off the block from Disneyland, just about a couple of miles away from Disneyland Park in California Adventure. Opened 1966, has 45,418. And no, it's not Dodger Stadium, but it's still a beautiful place to catch a ball game. Number 12 on the list, Coors Field in Denver, Colorado, opened 1995. Capacity 50,398. Home runs fly high, and a lot of things are high in the beautiful state of Colorado. And I'm just making fun of Colorado. Number 11, Kauffman Stadium, Kansas City. What a beautiful stadium. 1973, it opened. Capacity 37,903. Perhaps the most underrated ballpark in the majors. Some people won't agree with this one. Number 10 on the list, Yankee Stadium, New York, opened 2009. Capacity 49,642. How do you replace the most famous ballpark in history that has so many moments? So it can never be number one in my opinion. Number 9, Petco Park in San Diego. What a beautiful downtown San Diego is. Opened 2004. Capacity 42,302. And it's in San Diego, so it's hard to go to the ballpark where you can always go to the beach, but it's still a beautiful stadium. Number 8, we talked about the great Vin Scully. Dodger Stadium, Los Angeles, Chavez Ravine, opened 1962. 56,000. It's amazing. You can clearly see it, and the backdrop of that stadium is downtown Los Angeles. It really is a national treasure. I love Chavez Ravine. And the last few, SunTrust Park, Atlanta, Georgia, is a beautiful facility. Opened 2017. 41,081 seats. Also, the stadium holds about 8,000 fewer seats than Turner Field. It's still one of the most beautiful ballparks in baseball. Number 6, Target Field, Minnesota. I hope when people go to Target, don't buy all the toilet paper. It opened in 2010. Capacity 39,021. It's a really nice ballpark in a very beautiful city. Number 5, Camden Yards, Baltimore, Maryland. Opened 1992. Capacity 45,971. The original retro ballpark remains. It's one of the best ballparks in baseball. Hope they get a good team to go out there when baseball resumes. I hope it resumes very soon. Number 4, Fenway Park in Boston, opened 1912, 37,499 seats. One of the most beautiful ballparks in the universe. I love it kind of has that dank smell I know they paint over it a lot. They've done a few renovations, but a great place to see a ballpark and to see a ball game at Fenway Park with the Green Monster. I love that stadium in Boston, Massachusetts. As we close out the show, number 3, Wrigley Field, Chicago. Oh my God, I love when you can hit a baseball. You don't have to hit a home run. It just goes into the ivy on the outfield. Open 1914, capacity 41,072. It's a great ballpark. It's a rustic ballpark. Take me out to the ball game. Yeah, I love Wrigley Field in Chicago, Illinois. Number 2, Oracle Park, San Francisco, California, capacity 41,053. It opened in the year 2000. I was there on opening day in beautiful downtown San Francisco off of McCovey Cove. Really, I would say it's the number 1 park, and people can argue that, but I don't think there's a better park in baseball with a view of the San Francisco Bay right there, McCovey Cove. I gotta put that as my tie for number 1. And then PNC Park in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, opened in 2001, capacity 38,362, and it's close to perfect as a ballpark stadium can get. You can see it downtown over the home run fence. Back to the wall, deep right field, home run! And I hope that you love the show today as we talk about baseball. It can really bring us together. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the number 1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. And the apps that I really love are by Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C from 3,000 miles away, and he will do his thing. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. And you can follow Big C Sports, Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Launching a real estate listing channel in the spring of 2020. The goal is to get 100 real estate brokers list your properties on TV, just like McDonald's, just like car dealerships do it, and also sports teams do it too when the games are not suspended. And as we always say, Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. As I always say, Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe? I hope that everybody pay attention to science, pay attention to medical doctors. Let's hope and pray that we get rid of this coronavirus soon, because we want to hear hit deep, back to the wall. It's gone, home run! Every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the number 1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number 1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.